Order is broken. Play Order Legends or you'll lose.
Hidden feels very powerful. The entire room was like, oh, this card seems fucked. Defenders get an advantage and attackers have to leave. That's how that works.
Mind and body opposites. And then you've got Calm and Engi.
If you're the best player at your local, like you just get outvalued immediately. I think it is going to be very difficult to handle effectively.
He's McDonald's colors.
I did not read them all. I did not read that card seems completely ridiculous.
And every card was one English, one Spanish, and one Japanese.
We always do it. It's just a bit now.
You go.
I don't know what. Is this what we're supposed to do? See, last week I was actually rusty, but now I feel
just doing
good
it on
and I'm
purpose.
doing it on
Welcome
purpose.
to the
Yeah.
winning point. You're going to make me do it, and you don't want that.
I might want that.
Welcome to The Winning Point, a show about competitive Riftbound. I'm Blevins. That's Cassin. There's Charmer over there. And then way over there is Pastrytime. We are here. It's so far. It would be really great if we could animate my arm going all the way across. I know that's not possible, but I'm asking for it on camera. I'm putting so cursed. What's up, everyone? Guess what time it is? It is time for spoiler season. Reveal. What is it actually called? Reveal week? Reveal season?
Yeah.
Spoiler season.
Spoiler season.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it's actually called. It is spoiler season. We are getting. This is a show where we don't care what it's actually called because it will be multiple months before I call the domains their actual names
So
and
just
not
colors?
just the color that they
Yeah.
are. They're just colors. We're talking about all sorts of spoilers because we did get a ton of reveals this week. We got all of the legends, right? All of them? Do we know if it's all of them? I think it's all of them.
All of the ones that
have
were
to do a
made
count?
public, if that makes sense. Like the list that was provided
list-
to creators, we
Yeah.
have the ones that
Minus
match that list.
The 4 like extra ones that come in the little 4
Yeah,
little
improving grounds.
Okay, so the ones that we talked about last week and we saw last week, we know what they are now. We're going to be talking about a lot of them. We have got reveals for another month and 5 days as of this recording. Another about a month, probably.
Yep.
Let me see that.
It's a 6-week season. You're like a month and 5 days instead of 5 weeks because it's been 1 week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very complicated.
Well, I'm just looking at the actual date and trying to do math, and that's why there's steam coming out of my ears right now. This is going to be the main spoiler show at the start of this for this week. That's what it's going to be, and we're going to be talking about them. We're also going to be talking about some fundamental stuff about Origins because it's a fundamental set, and there's a lot of awesome stuff that's going on in this set. Cass, I'm going to start with you. We want to talk about some runes. Let's talk about them.
You want to talk about some runes?
Seals. We already established I'm not going to say the right thing.
All right. Well,
I'm just.
we wanted to talk a little bit about seals. Seals are fundamental to this very first set of Origins. These come in every single domain, and seals essentially read reaction, add that domain's basically recycle effect. What is power? Yeah, because you call them runes, which is our mana source. Well, it's power, right? So there's the
Yes.
power is the
Energy and
recycled-
power.
Energy and power. Yeah, these are the official terms here. So like if I'm looking at Seal of Unity here, for instance, this costs 0, but you do have to spend 1 power within the Unity domain. So you'll recycle 1 rune. And then for the rest of the game, while you have this gear on the board, you can tap it as a reaction to add 1 power of Unity. So this kind of helps you throughout the entire game not have to continually recycle runes and just gets you a little bit ahead on your energy generation.
Yeah, I know devs like to call these half moxes, which I don't think I agree with as a Magic player, but it kind of gets the point across. But these are pretty important. They're in all the trial decks, I think, or at least most of them. I think most decks will play some of these. I think some decks will play a lot of these. I do think it's an interesting deck building puzzle where you don't want that many because even though it looks like it's free, it's actually not that free, especially the first one is quite expensive. You can pay for the second one with the first one, which is nice, but you're also taking a massive tempo hit to do so. So it's a really interesting balance of like, how do they like make things powerful by costing power? And how do you balance them by giving people resources? Like it's still an investment in the same way that recycling runes for effects is, but it's really interesting to think about how many one of these, because they don't do anything if you don't have cards that are worth playing with, but they can definitely skew games sometimes and give you much bigger opportunity costs, especially in decks that are really power hungry. Yasuo as a trial deck is probably the one where this happens a lot, where you have a ton of recycle costs to do very powerful things. So discounting or investing in these costs and having them be able to be paid a different way later on is really cool. So these are definitely one of the most important like base cards in the set. Origins is a set that is trying to bring, I think, more cards than probably any other set will. And they want to provide tools for everyone to be able to play the game. And that includes fundamental things like these little mana rocks. And these definitely change how you evaluate cards. Like the 1 mana counter in green, it's Defy, I think, with the Deny from LOR. Very confusing. But that card is a lot better when you have Seal of Focus in play versus having to actually recycle a rune, for example.
Absolutely. I definitely felt that as well, right? I played a lot of Yasuo. It felt like I really liked them in Yasuo, but when I was playing something like Jinx, even though you actually had a lot of recycle costs, I didn't feel like it mattered as much to be able to keep the runes available. And so the tempo hit of like actually playing one of these out, I tended to like a lot less. And I think there will be a lot of decks, especially when you have like a single recycle cost on things, where on like a lot of things, like most of your powerful cards throughout the deck, where you'll want to play one of these out early game. But the other big thing is like the number of which that you want to put in your deck is like, do I play 1 and hope I hit it? Do I play 3 and then risk getting flooded? Like, am I playing the full suite of 6 that I can play in my 2 domains? Probably not, because that sounds pretty awful to me if you draw too many of these. But the exact number that you'll want to run alongside how many cards in your deck actually can recycle and still feel very good, that is one of the biggest initial deck building hurdles and power evaluation hurdles that this game has.
Yeah, I think players will put 6 seals in their deck, and that will be the most common deck building mistake made by beginners. I think that will be the thing that they do most that's wrong.
I feel like the seals are that bell curve meme where it's like brand new players are like, what in the world are these? I don't need these at all. And like intermediate players like, these are the greatest things ever, and experienced players are like, I don't really need that many of these. So it's less like literally you go full circle. I will say there is a legend that we'll be talking about later. It's Darius that definitely wants. Okay, we've got multiple. We've already got different.
There's also a legend that is a seal, basically. So
yeah,
the legend that is a seal compares you to being kissed by a rose on the gray.
Oh, yeah. True.
So one of the things that I wanted to mention when I was thinking about the use of these as well, and it kind of ties into us talking about this being a fundamentals set, which is these could have additional applications both based on the existing metas that we see pop up, but also future card design. So what I mean by that is right now, you might have decks where you don't want to include them in your main deck, but they still could be a very viable sideboard option because of cards that have deflect. So if you're not familiar, deflect is a keyword on units that says you have to pay additional power to target them with spells and abilities. And so if you're running up against somebody who has a ton of deflect and you were not banking on having to recycle a bunch, having some seals in your sideboard when you're playing the series could actually bail you out when you're trying to deal with those units. And then if we have, again, in future sets, similar effects, the fact that these are in a good, fundamentals foundational set means that they have kind of given us this tool for the long term. So I really like that.
Yeah, it definitely, there's a couple of things about them that we haven't even talked about that are really interesting for future sets as well. It costs 0. That's like any Magic player, competitive player, it's like, oh, that's sparking interest in me. Like there are 0 cost spells and creatures in Magic that are like 25 plus years old that a new card will come out and all of a sudden it's good again. What's the Flubs, the weird frog storm commander, like plays every 0 cost creature that like ever existed, and those cards saw no play whatsoever. They're just 0 cost 0/1, nothing, and now like a CEDH deck comes out and it gets a new application, right? So definitely and it's a 0 cost piece of gear. We have not, to my knowledge, seen a legend or a deck that would want like multiple pieces of gear. But like if we're thinking of Magic the Gathering, like artifact decks exist that, and there's creatures that want more artifacts in play that get bigger with more artifacts, and like being able to drop a bunch of zeros. Although again, they're not really zeros. I guess half moxes does sound about right. Actually, not like you do have to actually pay a cost to them.
Yeah, there is an unrevealed card, of course, that cares about gear, but we'll talk about it when it gets revealed.
Yeah. See, I don't know it. And like anything that I say is just happens to be right. And Pastry's over here like, don't say. I'm like, I don't actually know anything.
There's also for anybody playing blue, and I'm with Blevins. I'll get all of them.
Color's fun.
That's mine. But there's Heimerdinger who can duplicate any effect that is a tapping effect from gear, legends. I believe it might be also units as well. But being able to duplicate the effect of
legends, units, and gear.
Legends, units, and gear, right? So being able to duplicate the effect of a gear is actually quite strong. It increases the value of the gear if you're going to be a deck that's going to play Heimerdinger by being able to kind of duplicate the seal and extra power cost as well. So I think that can be really nice.
One last thing that I kind of wanted to mention as well, just thinking along the lines of like, yes, there could absolutely be legends, champions, etc., that care about gear. But even with some of the cards that we have seen revealed, there are things that care about, have you played the second card from your main deck? And playing something for 0 as your first card means you're turning on that ability really efficiently as well. So even if you're not using it for the recycle, again, that 0 cost is super relevant.
Legion just like seals in general.
Yep.
Seems good.
Very excited about those. I think those are going to they'll be staples for a while. And I'm sure that they will fluctuate in terms of their playability. Maybe not, but they'll fluctuate in terms of how many you want in a deck, and will definitely. It is definitely one of the biggest points of difference between Riftbound and Magic the Gathering, which is where I'm coming from mentally in terms of my gameplay, and where a lot of players are coming from. The direct comparison to Magic this game really shies away from that. So we'll have to see exactly what we really need is the Riftbound Frank Karsten to tell us exactly how many seals to play in all of our decks. Before we start talking about more spoilers, we also did get spoiled with some alt art treatments, overnumbered cards, and basically what Magic would call booster fun in terms of things that you can open in booster packs of Riftbound and be excited to try to get. I guess the big chase, or one of the big chases, are these alt art overnumbered signature legends. So they're an alt art of the legend, and they have the signature of the artist on the card. If you're familiar with Weiss Schwartz, or I think One Piece does this treatment too. Someone probably knows this. There are other games that do this style of alt art. Cass, what do you think about the alt arts that we've seen from Riftbound so far?
I mean, I think they're cool. It's not. I'm not the bling person. I usually play min rarity, and I just like, if I pull any bling, I always like try and trade it to get more decks, so I can just play all of the decks. But I do like to open packs and then like get excited about seeing something as I open it. And I do think like opening one of these alternate arts or a signature card would be like really hype. But I also just kind of like when there's a lot of different treatments that are at like smaller rarities. This was actually one thing. I didn't play a ton of Star Wars, but when I opened Star Wars for like a draft, I actually just had like a ton of fun because there's just so many different treatments, and like you could just get this full art common that just shows up, and the card's worth like 4 cents, but it was really cool to open. And there's just a ton of different ways where when I look so far at Riftbound, the generic cards just kind of have a lot of this full art treatment, which is really cool. And I feel like it'll be exciting to open in that way, but I don't know if that's going to be like a bunch of different treatments that I'm getting to open when I open packs, or if it's all going to be the same unless I hit big with one of these signature cards. So far, I'm not like super stoked on the chase stuff that's been revealed yet, but I do think like what is revealed as far as chases, I would be really excited to open. Like, I think it does look very cool.
You a foil chaser, Chalma?
I am for traditionally characters that I like. So I'm not typically somebody that has to have like max bling, but in other games that I play, I usually try to hunt down whatever the max rarity is of my favorite characters, right? So for League of Legends, it's going to be like Ahri, Vi, Malzahar, things like that as they come out. I will say, even if it's not, maximum bling, one of the other things that I really like of Riftbound that I've seen so far is that there's the, cool alternate art treatment stuff, but they've already revealed that there's essentially skins as well. And as somebody who's played a lot of League of Legends, I love skins. And so if I can have, my, I believe it's on the screen right now, my Misfortune in a cool skin, I'm totally going to take it, right? If I can have Arcade Ahri, I'm going to take it, that sort of thing. And I am really excited to, hopefully see those pop up throughout the life of the game as well, right? Because League of Legends has just such a deep, deep pool of skins available that I kind of want to build the full pool party deck, for example, for when I play multiplayer or something fun like that. I think it would be a good time.
Yeah, I generally like this stuff. We'll see how much I end up wanting to chase down because my wallet can only take so much aggro. I will say the two cool things about this is that one, apparently the foil treatment is absolutely sick for the overnumber signature cards. Especially, I haven't seen it. I don't know anyone that has. I think it's pretty well guarded, but I've been told it's very cool and it's like a multi-layer process. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing one in the wild because we'll actually get to see how sick the card looks. Like it looks cool as a still image, but it will look much, much cooler than that. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is that I believe Rare Plus is always foil in a booster. So people that like foils will get access to them very easily. Obviously, you can still get common, uncommon at foil as well, but you will basically always get a common version of the card if you're looking for something that's rare plus. So if you like foils, you'll get quite a lot of them in Riftbound.
What if I hate foils though?
Well, I don't know.
What if I really don't? I don't like my cards curling. I want my
it really depends on what the Pringle factor is.
That's true. Actually, if they don't curl, we don't know. Then that's fine. I also on the skins, I feel like I'm alone on this. In One Piece they have this, and whenever I play One Piece and somebody has like a bunch of the same card and they all look different, I hate it so much. I like it, it's like when I'm just trying to play the game, it's like that, or as like thinking of it as a production thing, like on broadcast, and someone has 4 different versions of it and you're trying to track it all as a caster or something. I really don't like the multiple versions. But I don't know. I feel like the skins are cool, but I just like don't want 7 different versions of the same card. It might just be me.
You haven't experienced secret layers yet where cards like cards.
I don't, SpongeBob Counterspell is looking pretty.
That you can at least tell is Counterspell. That's the thing, though. Like,
I was just going to say, somebody who's played a lot of card games and especially Magic, even before Secret Layer was a thing, you had the people that would have like, I have my one revised, I have my one from 5th edition, I have my one that has the new art when it was reprinted in Mirrodin or whatever, and then so on and so forth. So I guess I'm just kind of numb to things not looking the same anymore.
At least it's the same art, but I borrowed a deck for a Pro Quest in Flesh and Blood. I borrowed a Viscerai deck, and every card was 1 English, 1 Spanish, and 1 Japanese. Every single card in the deck.
Get out. That's so funny.
That's pretty amazing.
It's the most frustrating. I'd never played the deck either. I was borrowing it, so it's the most frustrating thing. Nothing in 3 different languages.
Are we going to gloss over the fact that Charmer revealing how old he is when he's like, oh yeah, when that card was recently reprinted in Mirrodin, a set that's like 25 years old.
Look, okay.
2003, I'm pretty sure Mirrodin was.
I said last episode, I am an old man and I've been playing for a long time. The fact that Mirrodin still feels like yesterday to me is also a problem. Like I remember drafting Arcbound Ravagers, okay?
It's okay, yep. Charmer. Me being 6 years old was also like yesterday for me. So that works.
Yeah.
We should talk about spoilers, by the way. There's a million cards we have to talk about.
There are a million cards. All right, Pastry, you brought it up. Pick a card. Let's do it.
Ahri.
Ahri time.
All right, Ahri.
Let's talk about Ahri. I wanted to talk about Ahri last week. And then
why didn't we?
Because she wasn't out yet. This is Ahri. So as I said on Twitter, Ahri's legend effect is continuous. So if you ever get attacked at a battlefield, she'll give a -1 per turn. Her text actually reads, when an enemy unit attacks a battlefield you control, give it -1 this turn to a minimum of 1 might. So you can't take out recruits. That would be kind of broken. But she turns every combat at battlefields you control into your favor. She does want to hold them. And then she's got a bunch of hidden effects, I think mostly in blue. But her signature spell is Foxfire, which you can hide. All hidden spells have the same cost. You recycle any color, so recycle rainbow to hide it at a battlefield. You must control a battlefield to hide a card. And if you lose control of the battlefield, you lose your hidden card. So an important opportunity cost to remember when you're hiding stuff at battlefields. Also, you can only hide 1 card at a battlefield, any one battlefield. So you can't stack multiple cards. You can only have 1. or it's an action. You can just play it regularly for 3 energy. Kill any number of units out of battlefield with total might 4 or less. So against most size units, actually, this kill spell is pretty good. I played with this card a bunch. I didn't feel like I used it as often as I thought I would, but I think that's mostly just learning how to play the game. This is generally pretty efficiently costed and kills most of the units in the game. So pretty sweet signature spell, but Ahri herself is just, I mean, you want to hold battlefields for as long as you can. Her champion unit is a 5 energy champion that says, if you hold, when you score from holding, score 1 more point. So all you want to do as Ahri is take a battlefield and then hold on to it for as long as you can. My strategy when I was playing was basically annex one of the battlefields and then hold on to it for the entire game. Because if your opponent can't hold the other one and they can't score both, they can never win, even if they're at 7 points, and you just slowly try and score up. Didn't work all that well, but that was my theory playing the deck. And this just feels like such a sweet, like take and hold territory control deck. And I'm very excited to explore it more.
We also just got another reveal today in green that was Sona that says she's a 4 mana, recycle 1, and then 4 power, and says, while I'm at battlefield, ready for friendly runes at the end of your turn. Which I think in green-blue, in Ahri, where you have like so many spells that you're going to want to play during showdowns, that feels like a pretty insane effect, especially because there's also, I mean, in green, there tends to be ways to move your own units. I know it's Yasuo is going to be able to just directly move Sona onto a battlefield and then ready for runes. But, you know, for Ahri as well, if you can play around that strategy of trying to hold one place and you have a well-protected Sona Ahri setup, you're just generating so much value every single turn by holding. And I think that that's going to give you the ability to even play more combat tricks and defend it even heavier. So very, very interesting control deck that Ahri has.
Yeah, like I said, I saw all the cards in this set technically in 2 hours or whatever, however long we played. I did not read them all. I did not read Sona. That card seems completely ridiculous.
Yeah, big Teferi.
Yeah, basically, which is coincidentally one of my favorite cards of all time. 5 mana Teferi.
5 mana Planeswalker Teferi.
The creature,
Teferi.
but I like the Planeswalker too.
Oh, okay.
I'm old. I'm like Charmer.
Me too. Although Mirrodin was the first set I played in, was the first set to come out, so I guess I'm not as old to say that this card finally got reprinted in Mirrodin. We've got it up, so we're going to talk about the card that I just called shot, said I was going to be the most excited about, and I'm quite excited about it. This is Darius, Hand of Noxus. He's McDonald's colors, aka red yellow. I didn't make this up. This has been a Lorcana thing for a while. The McDonald's Mufasa deck. He says you can exhaust him as a reaction if you have Legion, which is turned on if you've played another spell this turn, and he just adds 1 resource. He's just a mana dork himself as your legend, which is not what I expected Darius to be as a legend, a mana ramp spell. But he's here. He's enabling the Legion deck. And he's also got the Noxian Guillotine, which is an action. Choose a unit, kill it the next time it takes damage this turn. Or if you have Legion, just kill it now instead. So just straight up kill spell for 4 resources and exhausting a McDonald's resource. Exhausting a McDonald's is basically.
Cycling McDonald's, because exhausting is what tapping is in this game.
Okay, at some point, we'll just, post-production will fix all of these blunders.
I say Blevins will get it at some point, but I don't know if that's true. I think
you know that it won't happen.
I don't think that he'll get it at some point.
No, I'll get it at some point, and then I'll say it wrong on purpose. It's just, at this point, it's just sad. It's not frustrating.
Yeah. I think
it's not as frustrating.
This ability, when you're talking about a deck that wants to care about Legion a lot, feels really good. Like, I think we were talking about how seals are going to be good in a Legion oriented deck because it just turns on Legion immediately. But it's also because of the fact that seals are going to keep more runes active because you're gonna actually recycle less runes because you're actually playing a seal. This is another way you're going to continue to kind of pseudo ramp because he's a mana dork, and you need a lot of runes and resources to pay for 2 cards a turn because you probably don't want to play just infinite cheap cards. You want to play the very strong Legion effects, and you need to have ways to actually activate them.
Yeah, notably, Legion is turned on after, like, every spell after the first, basically. Yeah. So Darius can't help you play, like, cast a Legion unit, but he can help you cast the next one. So it feels like the design of this legend and this domain pairing is that you are trying to play lots of units with this effect in one turn rather than just 1 then 2. It's 1 then 2 then 3 then 4 then until your opponent explodes. Also notably, any spell that doesn't kill a unit at a battlefield is something you should look at pretty closely, because most of the interaction in this game needs units to be at battlefields to care about it. And Guillotine is one of the instances where you can just pick it off from anywhere, which is very, very powerful.
Yeah, in the demo games that I played, a lot of the the literally first time playing players would be like, oh, I'm going to play my unit, the next turn I'm going to attack with it, and they're wondering why they can't possibly. They're like, I don't see a way that I can win. It's like, you've got to build up your force and then, alpha strike. So Noxian Guillotine is really good at stopping my opponent is just building up their board, I can stop that. The other thing about Darius is that he can come, like the deck that he wants can come out of nowhere, right? Like you can, if you have the ability to ready units, which we've seen a number of Legion units or other units that you can pay an extra, you can recycle an extra rune, an extra resource to have them come into play on a ready, then you can create an alpha strike from nowhere, right? Like you can play from your hand. And then another card that got revealed is Cleave, which is one resource action, give a unit assault 3, which is +3 power while it's an attacker. It's like you have this surprise burst attack out of nowhere that is fueled by the cheap spells, the resource generated by Darius, and you can really have a very unassuming board and attack potentially for the winning point with this deck, if you just by building up your hand and not even really being too threatening on board.
All right, I want to hijack it. I'm popping out a hidden to talk about what I'm really excited about, which was legitimately going to be Ahri. However, I did say on our last episode that there was another card, another champion that I was excited for. So instead of going back to Ahri, I want to talk about Teemo, because Teemo is right up my alley. As somebody who's coming from Flesh and Blood and I play a ton of Assassin, that class in that game is all about sending something that looks benign and then surprising your opponent with a bunch of reactions. That is kind of what Teemo does in a nutshell. So the legend Teemo is Chaos in Mind, and it has an ability where you can pay an energy to hide a card with hidden instead of doing the recycle, paying a power. So that's already, in my opinion, really interesting, because you don't have to continue to shuffle stuff back in. You can continue to kind of ramp your energy up, while also having another ability on this legend, which is you can pay 1 and exhaust to put a Teemo unit you own into your hand from your champion zone or the board. Now, from the board makes sense if you want to redeploy or move him back to hidden or something. Totally get it. But also from your champion zone, because it starts there, but you want to then potentially play it with hidden, being able to just bounce it right from the champion zone right out of the gate. I think that's really, really cool. The thing that really sends him over the top for me, though, is his signature spell, Guerrilla Warfare. It's 2 energy and 1 recycle or 1 power. Return up to 2 cards with hidden from your trash to your hand. You can hide, ignoring costs this turn. So Teemo already just naturally gets a benefit of, hey, I'm going to be able to hide things easier, but this just lets you hide them for free. And if you're returning up to 2, your opponent knows that you're going to be putting something down, but if it's 2 different cards, now they have to guess what one you put down. Or is it a third secret option? Then that was just a diversion, whatever the case may be. So I really enjoy what this legend is trying to bring to the table. The missing piece of the puzzle, if you have not seen it, is the actual Teemo champion unit. And that is a unit that is able to be played hidden. And then when he is revealed, he gets a bonus +3 for that turn. So that's why Guerrilla Warfare, why the legend, they want you to keep returning these Teemos to your hand, because you're essentially playing units as combat tricks, which I think is just really, really neat.
I also think it adds this really fun mini game where you get to play the game that you have, where people try and scam you, where it's 3 cups and you hide a ball in it. But this is where you take Teemo from your your champion zone, and then you shuffle up your hand, so then you can hide anything, and it might be Teemo, but it might not be Teemo that I just put on the battlefield. Every time you return it, you gotta hide from your opponent which card is the Teemo. You can still bluff.
Yeah, it's really sick. I actually was thinking this week how hidden feels very powerful. I think I looked at it initially, I was like, oh, that's cute. That seems fun. But the cost of hiding cards is unbelievably cheap. There are very few things in Riftbound that cost 1 resource, like some decent tricks and hiding cards. And the hidden cards are much more powerful than your average like pump spell that costs 1. Granted, you do have to recycle. So once again, like Seals being good in Legion, Seals are also going to be good in Teemo because hiding is rainbow recycle. So it doesn't have to match the color. It can just be anything as long as you can recycle. Granted, you do have to control the battlefield you're hiding at. That is a very important part of this mechanic. But if it is easy for Teemo to conquer battlefields cheaply and hide cards there, this is going to be extremely mana efficient. And I went from being like, oh, it's kind of fun to like, oh, that seems kind of messed up. Like, Teemo might legit just be good.
I might be on the opposite end of it.
Really?
Even though I think... So I think hidden is really strong. That part, fully agree with you. But you've enlightened me today earlier when you said that only 1 hidden can be at a battlefield at the same time, at a single time. So to me, I was like, Teemo might be like best deck. Like I'm looking at like these hidden decks and I'm like, hidden spells are insane. This stuff looks broken. And now I'm like, okay, but only 1. And, I'm looking at the colors like blue, purple. I feel like getting on board and then actually setting up hidden and running the right amount of hidden in deck building while still getting value out of both your hidden cards and being on board. I feel like this deck might not be as good as a lot of the other stuff we've seen. I think Teemo is going to be an absolute menace in 4-player. I think he's going to be sick and so much fun to play with the extra battlefield too to play with, right? But I don't know. I don't know about 1v1 if I'm like as scared of Teemo as I previously was. I feel like this deck leaves some to be desired, although it will be the worst thing to play against ever. This is going to be pain to deal with.
So real quick, one thing that I just want to point out, and this is what I love about the mechanic, is that I agree with you. Hidden is both really powerful, but also limiting because you can only have 1 and you have to control the battlefield. But you can also still just manually play the cards, right? So yes, the Teemo champion unit really wants to be hidden because he gets the bonus the turn you play him and you want him to be active in combat right away. But for some of these other hidden options that you're likely going to be including in the deck, you could also, again, you're playing the shell game and go, okay, well, is it this? Is it not? When I look at, some of the options here, for example, Blast Cone Phase seems really good. I know it's not in his colors, but Hidden Blade is an amazing hidden card, etc. I think that there will be a situation where Teemo, I think, will be strong when you are always taking advantage of the fact that you're playing things cheaper with him, right? His ability to hide with paying 1 energy instead of a full recycle for 1 and always making sure you're getting something at a big discount is almost kind of like a ramp deck when you think about it that way. As long as you're doing it once per turn, you're going to get that value.
Yeah, I mean, Sprite Call is messed up to play even as 3 mana. I'll give you that. So that like in a showdown,
that's really good.
Flashing in 3 power is like very strong. It's very good. All right, we should move on though. I mean, we were talking about spells. We're talking about how Pastry earlier was alluding to the fact that there is essentially seal on a stick for one of these units, and it is going to be Kaisa, the Daughter of the Void. She has tap, reaction, add 1 of any color, rainbow, power. Use it only to play spells, however.
Yeah.
And then hers... Yeah, go ahead.
I actually don't know if that can hide cards, because that actually makes a big difference if it can.
I don't think it can.
Yeah, I don't think it can either. Even if it's a spell, like your opponent doesn't know. So I imagine in the rules you're not allowed to, but we'll get clarity. I'll update you next week. I'll poke around the rules and see what I can find out. But yeah, the Catherine Rain's like kind of fun, but I don't know how good it actually is. It seems like a good finisher spell, and it's fun and flavorful, and it suits the legend. But I think the real source of Kaisa, apart from her legend being really cool, is her champion card. It's messed up. Well, I think there's 2. But the 6 mana one I'm thinking of is real messed up.
The one revealed. I think there's only one revealed, which is the 6 mana. Yeah. So we got 6 mana and recycle 1 blue, 6 power. It has ganking, so it can move from battlefield to battlefield. When I conquer, you may play a spell from your trash with energy cost less than your points without paying its energy cost. Then recycle it. You must still play the power cost. But, you were talking about Kathleen Rain as a finisher. This is a great way to get those like last points to double conquer, right? You like conquer 1, get to 7, and then you cast into Kathleen Rain just having to pay the power cost to try and take the other point. I think is a really, really cool way that you can do it. But I think in general, super powerful ability.
Yeah, I think so. when this card got revealed, because it was in the presentations at the Influencer Summit, the entire room was like, oh, this card seems fucked up. This is, I think, the card that most people look at and go like, I think this might be completely broken. And I was originally going to play Kaisa because I was like, this looks really fun and really dumb. Let me add it. And then I saw Ahri and decided to swap. But I definitely think the super spiky competitive players will look at Kaisa initially and be like, this is the deck they think is probably going to be the best deck. So they'll try and build the best version of Kaisa first. And I think Kaisa will be very, very good. Like anytime you cheat on casting spells is good. And that's basically Kaisa's whole identity.
Yeah, it's always good.
Yeah, when you've got Yawgmoth's Will kind of on a unit, that's pretty good. And just having the built-in seal is going to allow her to more easily play a lot of these more broken spells. And actually, like I'm now jumping to like level 2 or 3 where it's like you can cut seals from your deck. The Kaisa deck does not need to play the seals, as many seals, right? Because of her own ability, her legend ability rather. So yeah, definitely not surprised at all that the Is It color legend is a spell slinger. Let's move on to the one and only Lee Sin, who sadly for all the lore players is not just Lee Sin from Legends of Runeterra.
Thank goodness.
Majin Bay is in shambles right now. Lee Sin is green-orange legend.
That is Calm and Body, sir.
That's why we've got Charmer here. Calm and Body. That makes sense. 1 resource and exhaust him to buff a friendly unit, which I don't know if we've actually talked about buffs yet, but buff is a specific keyword that says if it doesn't have a buff, it gets a +1 power buff. So by default, a unit can only have 1 buff, and the buff is just +1 power, but it can't get more unless you are the Lee Sin champion, who is a 5 resource, 5 might with shield, which means he's got +1 when he's a defender, and he can exhaust himself to buff himself. And also he can have any number of buffs, which is really cool. We've seen a couple other spells and units reference spending a buff. I think we'll talk about Sett in a little bit here, but buff is interesting. It's kind of like +1/+1 counters in Magic, but the design is making me think that it's inherently more stronger because like you can only have 1 buff by default. You can't stack up a bunch of buffs. You can have 1. That's it. Sometimes it gets spent, but that's all you get is 1 buff. It's got to be more powerful, right?
Yeah, it feels like the way that they've designed it where it's so limiting that they think it's strong. And so we'll have to see like in testing. I'm pretty underwhelmed by Lee Sin as far as the legend. I think just the single buff is not as exciting unless it's paired with something like, like Sett's legend ability, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I do look at his signature spell, and I do feel like that seems pretty strong.
Yeah.
Which is move an enemy unit, then choose another enemy unit at its destination, and they deal damage equal to their mights to each other. So I see that, as a 4-cost recycle 1 as being a pretty strong removal spell. And even it has the flexibility that you don't necessarily even have to use it just for removal. You can use it to finish a game by moving a big threat off of a location that you need to try and capture. There's a lot of flexibility to this spell. And so when I look at Lee Sin, I mostly look at the signature spell as like maybe the reason to play him. But I feel like I look at the color combo and I look at Lee Sin, the legend, and this is one where I'm pretty low on initially.
Yeah, I think this will be fun. As Blevins noted out, there are cards that care about spending buffs, so there's like a fun mini game of like pulling resources and spending them. Also, green is the color that has Charm, which is a 1 mana or recycle 1 green spell that says move an enemy unit. So there's a lot of like messing with the enemy in this color. So going to be some sweet stuff here for sure. I wanted to play Lee, but didn't have time. But definitely seems like an interesting thing to explore, certainly alongside Sett as well.
So I have 2 quick thoughts before we move on. The first is, I think that part of the reason the buffs are valued so highly from a design perspective is that might in this game is both your health and your attack power. And so this kind of buff, for example, is something that makes units harder to kill. So I think of Foxfire that we were just looking at as the signature spell from Ahri. This is going to mean that, buffed units, you're going to get less value out of that. I'm unsure yet. I don't know how I feel about, like, again, the full strength, but that's my initial like gut reaction to I think why buff is valued that way. The second is more of a question I have for Pastry, since you said you didn't get to play Lee, but maybe you played against it, and so I don't know. When you move an enemy unit like this, because it doesn't specifically say to another battlefield, can you move it back to their base? Yep. Like, can you kick it back to their base and 2-for-1 pretty consistently with this? Because that seems insane.
Yes, you can move units to base and kick them. I'm guessing that's the most common usage of this spell. I will also tell you, because this came up in a game I played, if you move an enemy unit to a battlefield, they will score a point.
Yeah.
So you can potentially win your opponent the game if you charm 2 units and let them conquer both battlefields on your turn. It is possible.
4-player politics.
There you go.
It is. Well, we started with Lee on buffs. Let's move on to Leona, which is the Green Bay Packers. No, sorry, green-yellow. Leona, Radiant Dawn. When you stun one or more enemy units, buff a friendly unit. And stun is a stunned unit doesn't deal combat damage this turn. So inherently, Leona doesn't do anything on her own, but it enables your stun cards, which her signature spell is Zenith Blade, 3 mana to recycle. It's an action. Stun an enemy unit at a battlefield. You may move a friendly unit to that enemy unit's battlefield. So stun,
really good.
And then move in. Yeah,
it seems so good.
Yeah,
it seems. Really
I played against Leo. She was pretty good. I will say. I mean, I'm curious what your thoughts are, but for rules, I can answer some questions because again, they came up in games I played. Stun units still take damage in combat, so you are basically just dead in the water if you get stunned. And then if you would ever tie a combat or not be able to solve one because units are stunned, enough units will get stunned that you can't resolve the combat, and both units will be left from either side. Defenders get an advantage, and attackers have to leave. Yep. That's how that works.
Attackers have to leave. This one is super interesting because I just talked about how I felt like Lee Sin was underwhelming with top to just give a buff, and this just reads it's worse, right? Because you stun a unit, buff a friendly. That's you can't just get this on demand. It should be worse. But I think Leona, in my eyes, when I look at Reveal, is one of the strongest decks. And the reason I think that though is green-yellow, I think, is such a good combination. And I think yellow has incredibly strong removal. Yellow in general, so much removal, but also the buffs with green combined with stun, I think is just going to allow you to get so much value out of the units that you actually play. I think you will be 2-for-1ing people very frequently, and even potentially getting more than just 2 cards for 1 card out of your deck. I think this deck is going to be really strong. I mean, it might be a hot take because I don't know if you read the legend ability and it's not that good, but I think that overall this deck is going to be really, really solid.
I agree. It's not a once per turn either, so you can keep buffing units as long as you have unbuffed units to buff. And the math is very good in yellow, I will say. And Leona's math seems very good.
Yeah, I was going to say what stood out to me as a differentiator between Lee Sin is exactly that. This happens whenever you stun 1 or more enemy units. And so if you play more than 1 stun effect in a turn, you're getting multiple buffs in a turn. And yellow order, right, has the ability to go kind of wide if it wants. And so there's going to be a lot of targets for potential buffs. I'm just really excited for Leona in general, both because she was my favorite support to play. I love being an initiator. Zenith Blade, from a design standpoint, definitely lets me live that dream of, hey, I'm going to hop over here and pick a fight and stun some folks. But also specifically, when you talk about the champion unit that's been revealed for her as well, that is a 4 energy, 1 order that you have to recycle. It's 4 power, but it has shield. And when I attack, stun an enemy unit here. That seems really strong when every time you attack, you're also going to buff something on your team. You're stunning something, so it's not going to deal its combat damage. And then because it's, Leona, of course, it's got shield. So you initiate, but then you also get that benefit when you're trying to hold it as well. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it becomes a 6-power defender.
Yeah, it's really good.
Crazy.
I also want to point out Solari Chief got spoiled. So it's a 5 mana 1 recycle 4 might unit. This has the same art as a card that terrorized all of us, I think, in Legends of Runeterra. So I'm definitely scared. When you play me, choose an enemy unit. If it is stunned, kill it. Otherwise, stun it.
Yep.
If stunning is relatively cheap to get access to, this card seems absurd. It is just Flametongue Kavu for all the Magic players out.
Yeah. Also, every stun
building
card that
Leona
ever gets
day
printed
one,
from now
for
is going
sure.
to be like,
I'm excited about Leona.
How good is it? How good is it? Leona, I feel like last word on it is I feel like Leona is like stats go burr, and we're going to look back at this episode in like 3 years and be like, how in the world did this like generic stat stick do so well and terrorize the first Bound Worlds? But let's move on to Misfortune Bounty Hunter. Orange Purple, which Charmer, of course, will let me know what the actual names of those domains.
That's Body and Chaos. This is the way I always remember it. You've got Order and Chaos opposites, Mind and Body opposites, and then you've got Calm and Angie. It's Fury. Fury is the actual term, but it's Angie.
It's Angie now. That's canon.
It is. Speaking of canon, we've got Misfortune, of course. Got there. So she's got Exhaust. Give a unit ganking this turn, which I don't actually know if we've talked about ganking yet. It is in the intro decks, but it can move from battlefield to battlefield. So by default, you can only move from base to battlefield and vice versa. But with ganking, you can move from battlefield to battlefield. And Misfortune gives any unit that. And I'm going to be honest, I'm most excited about her signature spell, which is 1 resource, Bullet Time. It's an action, so it can be played on your turn or in showdowns. I'm really keen on the spells that can be played in showdowns because combat tricks going to like completely blow out sometimes and just be really great. You can recycle any number of runes to deal that much damage to all enemy units at a battlefield.
Yeah, little plague wind action.
Bonfire the dead. Yeah, yeah.
Insane finisher if you don't need your mana.
Yep.
But also, I want to mention just the combo real quick that I think everyone looks at immediately with Bullet Time, which is with Warwick, which was just spoiled today, which is 6 mana, recycle 1 body, 5 power. I enter ready. When I attack, kill all damaged units at the location. So you Bullet Time for 1 at the location, you send your Warwick in, it wipes the board, right? So there's like very cool initial synergy that exists for this.
That's 6?
Ahri turtle deck.
That seems so good. That actually seems good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was going to say real quick as a connector back to the beginning of this episode, you don't even have to recycle if you use a seal.
Thank you.
To pay for your power.
I was going to chastise Blevins. Thank you.
What did I say? I keep saying runes.
No, you said recycle, which is correct, but it's pay any amount of power, which seals can also pay. We're teaching. We're learning here. This is a learning podcast.
I did the shortcut because I still in my mind can't say those words right.
You'll be okay.
The more you know with Blevins.
Which is it's more like the more you know than.
So before we I was going to say before we move on from Misfortune, I wanted to shout out the champion that was revealed because what I love about this Legends design just in general is that it rewards you for kind of moving back and forth or going to any open places. It really represents her just walking all over the map if you've ever played League. So it's funny, this is the champion, but this isn't even the one that I was thinking of, but we'll cover this one too. So 5 energy, 1 body power, and it's a 5 might on the unit, has accelerate. So that's, you can pay 1 additional as an additional cost. And then she enters ready, ganking. So can move battlefield to battlefield. And the first time I move each turn, you may ready something else that's exhausted. And that's, I think, really, really cool because it means gear. It means units. It means whatever you can ready it. A legend even. Yeah. So, but the other one that is not on the screen that I was also going to mention because it had been revealed was the 4 cost. So the 4 cost Misfortune is the the chaos one. Now Blevins got me all messed up. So it's 1 chaos power, 4 cost, has 4 might, but specifically you can play her to an open battlefield and also says friendly units can be played to open battlefields. So again, just represents her being all over the map all the time.
Yeah, I will say that's a 4-player powerhouse right there. Being able to move to any battlefield is very good.
You can like bullet time too. You can like go start a showdown bullet time. Yeah, MF's mobility seems really good. The Chaos MF is in the Yasuo trial deck, and that feels like one of the best cards in that deck because sometimes you just need to get in there. Also, as a small note, Accelerate, which is a common ability among both the red and orange units, it's 1 energy and 1 power of the matching color usually that the unit is. It was one of those things that when I started playing, it was a little tricky to read for me, but it's basically 1, but 1 in a recycle. So seems very powerful. Seems really fun to play too. moving units around a bunch of battlefields. Like Yasuo gives you that experience, but MF kind of gives you the like aggressive version of that experience. Yasuo is like the more mid-range controlling one. So both decks seem really fun.
Last note on MF, I'm curious if you build the ganking deck, the more ganking cards that you put in the deck, the less useful the legend is. So it's kind of a weird figure out how many non-ganking cards you want.
On that, actually, new players might not realize, but I think ganking is one of the more powerful abilities in the game. So keep that in mind when you're evaluating cards. Ganking is very, very good. But we're on to Sett, so I'll read Sett because I'm here. Sett is the boss, of course. His legend says, when a buffed unit you control would die, you may pay Rainbow or recycle Rainbow and exhaust me to spend its buff and recall it exhausted instead. And when you conquer, ready me. So this is a fascinating little legend in body and yellow, which, as we've discussed, is the good color. And then Showstopper, his signature spell, 1 and a recycle. Buff a friendly unit in your base, then move it to a battlefield. So nice little mobility spell.
Yeah, I see Showstopper as being very good. This is I think moving in general. We've talked about, I mean, you said how strong ganking is. We talked about how we both love Yasuo, things in green, right? But just being able to move things, I think, is quite strong. This is also giving it a buff. But then you can also combine it, with maybe even the Leona champion in yellow, and then stun at that location that you're moving this thing to, while also buffing it to actually get a lot of power. I also see Sett's ability as quite powerful with the exhaust on top of that, being able to just continually recycle your own. I shouldn't use recycle because that's actually a game term, but being able to keep a card advantage over your opponent. Because if you trade, but you had the buff, you just get to keep it while recycling a rune. And then, not to mention that he's in yellow, so I think this champion is probably very good.
Yeah, and I just want to call out again the champion unit as well. That seems like it's right at home with Sett to begin with, but the champion unit, it's 4 energy cost, and then it is 1 order power. 5 might has tank, so if you're not familiar, tank says that they must be assigned combat damage first, but also gets +1 might for each buffed friendly unit at my battlefield. Now, that's already going to mean that just buffing that champion unit by itself will give it essentially +2, because it's going to get its static effect because it counts itself. But also, when you want to use your legend ability, right? When something is going to die and you want to pay that 1 power to exhaust your legend and send it back to your base, being able to reuse that tank over and over again, that champion unit, is going to be, I think, a really, really big deal.
Yeah, and setting up these tanky positions, and he's going to be a giant unit. It's going to have tanking. Your opponent is going to have to invest a lot of resources to try to take him out, and that's where these combat tricks and reactive spells just even more value, because your opponent's going to have to overextend to try to take down these big units, and you just go, yeah, I'll give him a buff here, or I will deal 3 to your small unit to 2 for 1 you, and those are going to be the blowout moments where the experienced player just really gets ahead and pushes ahead in a game of Riftbound.
Yeah, I was going to say it also matters how good the enters stuff is on the different units, but then I remembered Solari Chief is in this color combo, so now I'm terrified. I mean, that's already such a hard unit to remove. If it gets buffed, it's a 5, not a 4 might unit, and then when they replay it, they kill or stun something, gross.
At least this says recall, right? Recall, they wouldn't get enter effects, right?
So you can replay it. When you play it again, because it goes back to your hand. Oh, it's back to
base.
Yeah, recall is back to base.
Yeah, recall is base. So you shouldn't be able to play it again.
It doesn't count as a move.
It
doesn't count as a move.
That is true.
Right. It's send it to base, not move.
Okay, still good, but not that good.
It's almost better. It's not as good because of the not getting replay effects, but also you don't have to. It is better because you don't have to play the card. You are up so much tempo and card advantage over your opponent. I actually think playing against Sett will be such a skill check for people to be able to deal with this, because if you're just trading randomly and getting punished over and over again by Sett just recurring his units, sending them back to base, you just get outvalued immediately. I think it is going to be very difficult to handle Sett effectively.
I also think it'll be a very popular deck for that reason. I think it's very solid.
Yeah.
Numbers are probably good. Leo might be better, but I think we'll see a lot of Sett for the 5 players out there. I imagine this is Sett is the rune blade. You'll see
if
him
you're the
everywhere.
best player, if you're the best player at your local, play Sett. There won't be variance on your wins. You'll just win. Like that's kind of how I see it, right? Like if players aren't good, they won't
Good
beat
unit.
you if you're playing Sett.
What are we most excited about after seeing a bunch of stuff? I forgot how many cards there revealed. There's so many cards in this. We have 5 more weeks of this. Sorry, 4 weeks and 5 days of this.
I'll go first because I'll be quick here. I'm gonna be quick here because I said Ahri is the one I'm most excited for, and for so long it was. But really, the 3 decks that I'm actively looking to like test to try and win the first few tournaments and go from there because I think the power levels are insane. It's gonna be Sett, Leona, and maybe Misfortune as kind of the 3 that I initially look at as power level. I think these are very good.
Yeah, that seems sick. I think for me, Ahri, obviously, Yasuo again. Once I get a better look at the card pool and have a look at like what decks people are playing. But of the new stuff that we've seen, probably. I don't know. I don't want to be a order player, but the order cards just seem so good.
So good.
It's funny because like Victor, I think of the trial decks, right? He's the order rep for those decks. Victor is like fine, like fun, straightforward, kind of fun to make recruits, but like not particularly powerful as a legend, I don't think. In fact, I think most people know this, but Victor cost 2 to make a recruit for a long time, and he got buffed in the recent trial deck update that happened. So now it's only 1, kind of like a lot of the other units we've seen. But someone told me offhand, like, oh, Victor seems kind of meh, but the colors Victor's in seem real good. So it seems how it's kind of good. And I think he's the only one in that specific domain combination. So
we'll have to see how much a color stick or domain stick for Legend is, like how relevant that is. Like, oh, I don't even really care what Legend does. I just want access to those domains.
I want to chime in real quick, say for the people that are watching, I'm excited that my face is frozen. That makes me very happy. I love pretty much everything that's been revealed, and I know that's the cop-out answer, so I'm going to go way off track here and say what I'm most excited about now that we've seen at least a good chunk of the cards so far is the future alternate ways to play the game. I know there's already a really robust 4-player mode, but as somebody who also loves Star Wars Unlimited, and if you're not familiar, that has like this Twin Suns format where you get 2 leaders. I'm looking at stuff like Sett and then combining it with either Lee Sin or Leona where you're getting these buffs. And I'm like, man, I can't wait for whatever the like 2 legend, 2 champion format's going to be, because there's a bunch of cards that look right up my alley.
Before we go, we actually talked about this a lot before the show started, but we didn't bring it up. Do you want to talk about Shen? Real quick.
Yeah, we should bring up Shen.
I'll read Shen for everyone. This got spoiled recently. So this is a order unit. So again, continuing our theme of yellow seems like the good domain. Shen is a 3 energy, 1 power to play 3 might, so not all that big. Shield 2, so it has +2 when it's a defender, so good on defense. And it's also a tank, as Charmer mentioned. This unit must be assigned combat damage first. The first line of text that I didn't read, which is maybe one of the silliest things I've ever read on a Riftbound card, especially for a unit that can go in, well, it can't go in this. We'll explain this second. Reaction. This is a unit that you can play as a reaction. That's absurd. Okay. And it's huge on defense. I will point out, by the way,
biggest flavor win.
It's awesome. It stands uniting right in. Like the design from a top-down league thing is so sick. But I will point out, this is one of the things where legends are so innately powerful because you always have them in your like zone. They're a constant effect you get access to. Thank goodness there is no Shen legend, because imagine having this in your champion zone.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, Shen seems sweet. There's a couple other cards that, well, we've got an infinite number of episodes in the future that we can talk about. We'll wrap up more. I mean, this was the legend episode, right? Like we talked about the new legends. We'll get into more of the specific spoilers in the next episodes. I do have the one thing that I'm the most excited about, and this is what I get excited about in most games, is how are the good aggro decks and good aggro players going to play out? Because I think a lot of people are going to realize that the first 7 points are quite elementary to get, and the winning point is the one that was banished to the Shadow Realm. The winning point is the tough one, right? And a lot of times I saw the Jinx deck in the trial decks get the first 6 or 7 points very easily, and then be like, I don't even understand the concept of how I would win here. But there is a way to thread the needle, and there will certainly be a way to thread the needle. And I want to see how the good players and good aggro players figure that out. That's where my mind is going. Like, how do we get this alpha strike? How do we like shield how powerful we are and just get that final point, or those, capture those final 2 battlefields at the end and take it. So
yeah. On that note, my hope for the next week of spoilers, because we're going to have a whole week more of spoilers before we record again. I hope they reveal some battlefields, because those are some of the most interesting, like massively game-changing things that are super tied to champion identity. Like in many ways, you can look at a champion and they're like legend, champion, signature spell, battlefield. They are a package. And there's a bunch of them I know about that they haven't revealed yet that I really want them to. So hopefully next week we get to talk about some battlefields.
Yeah, this was the Legends episode. I hope we get the Battlefields episode for sure, because they are amazing. I think one like final thing for me to sum it all up: Order is broken until they release more stuff on everything else to make it seem not as good, and nothing stands even close. Play Order Legends or you'll lose. That is the episode.
There's the clip. Clip it so that when the body is very clearly broken next week, we can talk about it.
We can say that at the end of next week's episode. Yeah.
Wait, domain is busted.
Yeah.
There's 6 domains in 6 weeks. It's genius.
It makes so much sense. But we'll be if that does happen, we'll be certain to cover it here on The Winning Point. I've been Blevins. That's been Cass. That's been Charmer. That's been Pastry. We are on The Winning Point, and we will see you next week for the next one.